All right, joining us to discuss Mueller and his statements tonight, my guest is Democratic strategist Spencer Critchley, joining us from Monterey, California. Wendy Patrick is with us from San Diego. She's an attorney and a political analyst. Wendy, for 2 years now, we have been hearing this collusion narrative. Now, again, Mueller saying that there was insufficient evidence on collusion. Democrats now, of course, shifting focus to obstruction of justice. We'll get into that later. Overall, though, did we learn anything new from Mueller today?
We learned, Michelle, that he found the need to speak, and that is significant in and of itself. Remember, this was a surprise. There's been back and forth about, well, is Congress going to subpoena him? Is he going to have to testify? It almost seems like he chose to speak today, one of the reasons, so he wouldn't have to speak to Congress. He wants to go back to his private life. Now, why do I say that? His statement was brief, but it packed a punch. The power of the spoken word, the fact that he reiterated that the findings that he did, and I know that Democrats and Republicans are seizing on different parts of the story, meant that he found it necessary, maybe not so much to correct the record, but to clarify that that report speaks for itself. It is testimony, and he meant every word he said.
Right. Well, you know, to your point, Wendy, neither Republicans nor Democrats seem to be particularly happy with what Mueller had to say today.
Right.
Spencer, and that's because there were several contradictions in his own statements. Let's focus on the legal standards that he mentioned, because he seemed to say that there are different legal standards. When he was referring to indictments against the various Russian individuals, he said that every defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. But when it came to the president, he said that there is a standard to be proven innocent. Let's take a listen.
These indictments contain allegations, and we are not commenting on the guilt or the innocence of any specific defendant. Every defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. And as set forth in the report, after that investigation, if we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so. We did not, however, make a determination as to whether the president did commit a crime.
So, Spencer, according to Mueller, the Russians charged are presumed innocent until proven guilty. An American president, however, is presumed guilty unless and until Mueller's team determines he's innocent. Why the double standard here? And does it indicate partisanship on behalf of Mueller?
Oh, far from it, I think, and I don't believe it is a double standard. I think it's a recognition of the exceptional status of the American president, explicitly because of the Department of Justice rule that says you can't indict a sitting president. So that's what makes this a special case. And I think Robert Mueller
to prove a president innocent? I mean, he seemed to indicate that.
No.
Granted, you don't. The president should not be held above the law. That's a fair point. But should the president be held to different standards?
No. Well, he is being held to a different standard, but it's a different standard of innocence. And for good constitutional reasons, you don't, in a democracy, want to use the legal system to go after political opponents, although, of course, President Trump is a fan of that approach. The problem here is, and I think Robert Mueller is signaling this as strongly as he possibly and ethically can, is that it's the job of Congress to pursue this, and his hands are tied by that DOJ rule, and he cited that he seems to agree with the constitutional underpinnings of that rule, that you should not indict a sitting president. But like nearly 1,000 former federal and state prosecutors, many of which have worked for the Department of Justice, including under this administration, who signed the recent letter, they believe that if he were a private citizen, the president clearly would be indicted, at least for obstruction of justice, which is clearly laid out in the Mueller report. And he can't be because he's a sitting president. So I think that's what Robert Mueller is saying. Congress needs to act.
If that's the argument, Wendy, why didn't Mueller elaborate on that? Why wasn't he so specific? When Ken Starr, for example, investigated Bill Clinton in the grand jury that he convened, they did lay out a perjury charge against Clinton. There was a very clear roadmap for Congress to follow in 1998, but Mueller didn't do that. Why not?
The facts are completely different, Michelle and Spencer. We're in an entirely different position. And what Mueller was really saying, it seems that he didn't do the analysis. It is true. He never said, I mean, he reiterated today, if he had found that the president was cleared, he would have said so. But what he didn't say is that he did find the president was at least indictable, but chose not to because of the OLC opinion. That is where we cross, and that is where we embark on partisan paths. The dueling narratives are exactly that. The Democrats say, well, this must mean that Mueller found evidence but couldn't charge him. And, of course, the Republicans are saying it meant that the analysis wasn't done. It simply meant that it wasn't done either way. Didn't find evidence of a crime, didn't find evidence that he didn't commit a crime. But also remember, the president is not held to a different standard. Everybody is innocent until proven guilty. And were the president a private citizen, that would be the burden of proof there as well.
All right, Wendy, thank you so much. Wendy Patrick, Spencer Critchley. We will continue this conversation on Clearcut Plus, so make sure to tune in for that at around 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Wall Street, investors laser focused on how the U.S.-China trade war could spark a global recession. We had another sell-off today thanks to those fears. We'll discuss when we come back. Keep it here.